01, we do have a presentation regarding the MK Delta Lands application, and our presenter this evening is Joanne Barnett. She's the president of the MK Delta Lands group. Joanne, if you can come forward.
Thank you. And just as Joanne and her staff are coming forward, I was remiss in not reporting out that unfortunately Mr. George Harvey, our CAO, his mom died today, and he will not be with us tonight or for the next probably few days. So I just wanted to let people know that. I'm sure you'd be interested. Thank you very much. Ms. Barnett, the floor is yours. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson, and members of council for allowing us this time to address you this evening. As Angela has advised, I'm Joanne Barnett, and I'm the president of MK Delta Lands, and I'm here with our project team. We are here to update you this evening on our application to amend the official community plan for 10770 72 Avenue at Highway 91 in North Delta. We have a map that we would like to put up just to show you where that parcel is. And it's the parcel outlined in blue. It's approximately 89 acres of the 500 acres that were left in our ownership after the formation of the Burns Bog Ecological Conservancy area. And I can advise council, as I have advised members of the public, that it is the only portion of our lands for which we are proposing development other than the 22 acres on River Road, which are part of your award-winning soil initiative. You may recall that your staff, after receiving our application, reported to council on May 19th, providing you with the background and context, as well as outlining to you MK's proposed public consultation process to be undertaken prior to our application being filed in its detailed form. MK Delta Lands is committed to planning its lands in consultation with the community to develop a vision for the site. We wanted to hear from the public how we might best serve its needs and desires for the future before preparing our development concept and completing our application. I can advise you, Madam Mayor, members of council, that we have made good progress in this regard, and we want to report back to you this evening on the process itself that we've undertaken, and also to tell you what we've heard from residents and the community. We will also outline our proposed next steps in this consultation process that we have now undertaken. Our consultation was a team effort in every sense of the word. So I have asked our professional subject matter experts to briefly tell you about the consultation process that was used and what each one of them heard in response to his or her presentation of what we know about the site. I'll introduce them briefly and then allow them to complete the presentation. To my left is Odette Pignot, Senior Planner of HB Lannert Golders. Odette is our project planner and will give you an overview of the approach taken and the organizing elements for our public consultation. Then beginning in the first row of the audience, behind me, moving from your left to right, Madam Mayor, Julie Marzolf, President of Marzolf and Associates. Julie is our Community Relations Liaison and will tell you about our outreach to the community, inviting their involvement in the public consultation. Then our subject matter experts will briefly summarize for you what each one of them heard during the public consultation after giving you a brief overview from the perspective of their expertise. Firstly, Ian Robertson, Principal, Robertson Environmental Services Limited, is our environmental consultant. John Balfour, Principal, Enterprise Geoscience, is our hydrogeology consultant. Michael Richardson, Principal, RF Binney and Associates, is our Transportation and Civil Engineering Consultant. Tracy Cassavant, Executive Director, Lighthouse Sustainable Building Center Society, is our Sustainability Consultant. Paul Skite, formerly Manager of Planning and Parks for Metro and at the time Greater Vancouver Regional District, is our Land Use and Environmental Planning Consultant. Other members of our team not presenting tonight include Kim Perry, who is a principal of Perry and Associates. Kim is our site planner and landscape architect, and he's charged with the responsibility of the visual representation of our application at the appropriate time. Callum Srigley, principal with Placemakers, works with Kim to visually illustrate a sense of place. Tom Staniskas, principal of NSDA Architects, advises us on built form and massing. I can recall complimenting you, Mayor Jackson, on one of the many achievements of the corporation, and I will never forget your response. You told me you have a great team who respond to the challenge and deliver beyond expectation. I commend to you MK Delta's professional consulting team, our subject matter experts to you in the same vein. They are all BC based. They will tell you plainly what they heard and where we are going next, and be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you again for allowing us this time to address you, and I'll now pass it over to Odette.
Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you. And I am the project planner working on behalf of MK Delta Lands Group, and I'm responsible for coordinating the development submission and ensuring that it meets the planning and regulatory requirements. And so in March, MK Delta Lands Group submitted an application to the Corporation of Delta for an official community plan and a zoning amendment to change the current designation of the site from resource study area and industrial zoning to a comprehensive mixed-use zone. And the application was a bit unusual in that it didn't include proposed site development plan. The application included a summary of the site conditions only, and all of the materials are available on Delta's website as well as MK Delta Land's website, and will continue to be transparent and to post materials on this website. So MK Delta Lands Group did not want to prepare a development plan in isolation and used a consultation approach instead than in its development planning, and wanting to identify with the community the desires for the future of the site and for the future of North Delta. And so our team tonight is presenting the results of consultation, and it is a consultation summary report that we'll be presenting and that I'll be submitting to your clerk here. Thank you. And so our team is presenting tonight the results of this consultation work, and we've also posted this on our website, and it's available as we speak. And the community consultation started, as you'll see in the slide, on April 17th when MK Delta Lands Group hosted an open house, and well over 300 residents attended. And the number one request that we received via comments sheets from residents was that they wanted to see the development plans. So our approach has been inclusive and consultative, and we've designed a consultation approach to involve as many residents as possible in helping us to develop the concept plans before arriving at a preferred plan. So then in April and in June, our team also delivered 3 community workshops, and a total of 118 residents participated in these workshops. The purpose was to share what we know about the site and to learn from residents and listen to their interests for the future of North Delta and the area. And so we took very much a hands-on approach. All of the workshops were designed with the same format. They were hands-on small groups with a facilitator and a subject matter expert at each table. The first 2 hours was spent presenting what we knew about the site, environment, hydrology, transportation servicing, and some of this information presentation you'll briefly hear from my colleagues tonight. And then the last hour of the workshop was for small group work, where we asked residents to roll up their sleeves and to join us in putting markers to paper and in guiding the concept planning for this site. So during the design part of the workshop, the facilitators asked questions in the small groups like, are there areas that should remain untouched on the site? And are there areas that are more suitable for development? What makes most sense in terms of site access? And where would we locate recreational linkages? We asked questions about what kinds of services, amenities, housing types would be appropriate for the site and in considering the needs of the future of North Delta. So we asked also questions around sustainability. How can we make this project as sustainable as possible? We wanted to gather depthful insight from residents to help guide our work, and we certainly received thoughtful guidance from participants. The technical team members tonight will present the key themes that we heard in their areas of specialty, and that will be for the rest of the presentation. But first I'll ask Julie Marzoff to summarize how the workshop attendees were invited to participate in the workshops.
Great, thank you. Yes, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Over the past 7 years, I focused my efforts on understanding the dynamics of Delta as a whole and looking specifically at North Delta as it connects to the MK Delta Lands parcel. I will outline some of the ways we've engaged public in the land use planning work over the past 6 months. MK Delta Lands Group has offered accessibility to the consultation process through the website, in person, by phone, and email throughout the process. It was our aim to make the community workshops and site tours accessible to all. We varied the days of the week and times of the day and evening, including weekends, to capture as many participants as possible. A variety of methods were used to engage prospective participants, handing out community workshop flyers with contact information at the April open house, personal invitations, news releases, telephone, email, and regular web updates. We also hand-delivered workshop invitations to 600 adjacent households, 300 each for workshops number 2 and 3. Individuals representing over 16 community organizations were contacted. Some of the groups include Scott Road Punjabi Business Association, Delta Chamber of Commerce, members of the North Delta Real Estate Community, Delta Seniors Advisory Committee, Cougar Creek Stream Keepers, Burns Bog Conservation Society, local churches, Delta Hospital Foundation, Scott Road Businesses, Tour de Delta Board, Delta Museum and Archives, and Versa. At the end of the community workshops and site tours, we encourage the residents to extend an invitation to their contacts. Over 3/4 of the residents that participated in the workshops live within 5 kilometers of the site, as shown on the location map. In addition to the community workshops, we offered and held 10 site tours with over 60 residents participating. For 10 days before the August 1st site tour, we posted an invitation with tear-offs info at the Cougar Creek entrance to the Greenway walking path off Westview Drive, checking daily and replacing the invitation if necessary. For specific responses to community workshop feedback, there were several people who attended community workshop number 2 and felt that they didn't have enough time to have their specific questions answered or express concern with aspects of future development or the concept of any development at all. In response to this, Joanne Barnett made herself available for one-on-one meetings, offering a variety of dates and times to meet. To date, no one has availed himself or herself of this opportunity. This offer was extended via phone call and email on several occasions. As a second opportunity to provide accessibility and transparency, Joanne Barnett provided a table at Community Workshop number 3, which was singularly focused to allow open questions and comments. 3 people participated at this table. We remain accessible and look forward to the public open house on October 18th. Now, Ian Robertson, our environmental consultant, will summarize his ecological knowledge of the site and what we heard from participants on the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm Ian Robertson, Principal of Robertson Environmental Services Limited, and my professional experience in Burns Bog started in 1981-82. Much later, our company contributed 2 of the background studies for the Burns Bog Ecosystem Review, an independent process headed by Dr. Richard Hebda of the Royal BC Museum. 3 of the specialists on our team for MK Delta were members of that Burns Bog Ecosystem Review study team. And the rest of us, working for Joanne and her group, we worked on the 10770 lands for a total of about 25 working days doing baseline studies. These included bird investigations covering the winter breeding and fall migratory seasons, plus callback surveys for owls. We revised the 1999 ecosystem mapping and habitat suitability that was found in the Ecosystem Review. And our fish team, composed of members of Coast River Environmental Services, rechecked the watercourse attributes of all ditches and streams for fish and to determine acceptable schedules for any in-stream works. And more details, and this is a highly brief summary, are found in our OCP application submission from March. Now, in terms of habitat, which is a complex issue, most of the area consists of disturbed swamp plant communities, which you would find out if you ever tried to walk through there, distributed primarily in the north. Vegetation here is dominated by deciduous trees, such as red alder, shrubs such as hardhack, salmonberry, and Indian plum, and herbs, sedges, and grasses such as skunk cabbage, reed canary grass, and various specific sedges. The southern area has a more ecological, diverse forest than the north. It's composed primarily of a mix of coniferous and deciduous stands varying between young and rather mature, over 120 years old. It's comparatively less disturbed than in the north. At the workshops and the open house that was held at the end of March, early April, these are the concerns that I heard. Concern about the loss of green space, loss of habitat, impacts on Burns Bog, air quality impacts from the highway, and impacts on local creeks. Residents spoke to the importance of mitigating any impacts and ensuring that monitoring would be there to make sure that mitigation measures were working the way they said they might work. The most frequent site development suggestion was to retain the older coniferous forest and areas in the south side of the site. Keep trees along the highway as a buffer for noise and to add or to sustain the visual perspective one now has. Have trail connections to greenways integrated into future development. And now I'll pass it on to Joan Balfour, who will discuss hydrology.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name's John Balfour, and I'm here to speak about water. I've worked in the bog since 1982. I was responsible for the hydrology and water quality studies carried out in support of the Ecosystem Review in the late 90s. So firstly, just an overview of the hydrology of Burns Bog. The large part of the conservancy area is characterized by a water mound and a divide with flow going north to the Fraser, south to Boundary Bay. The water in this area is characterized by very low mineral content and acidic pH. The site that we're talking about, 10770 72nd, is located to the east of Highway 91. The central part of the bog is rain-fed. Along the eastern margin, it's rain-fed, but in addition, there's runoff from Panorama Ridge, and there's also a zone of groundwater discharge, somewhat similar to Watershed Park, although there aren't artesian springs and such. So just the site features and what we know about the site. So the drainage features, there's Cougar Creek that flows off the uplands. Drainage is primarily from east to west across the site. There is a wetland feature in the south. That wetland also receives some stormwater from the uplands. It buffers that, treats it, and attenuates storm flows. Much of the drainage from the site goes through the highway embankment of Highway 91 through a series of under drains that were constructed at the time the highway embankment was built. Not all of these function properly, but that's the main pathway from east to west for water movement. The site has peat soils with a low water pH. The waters are somewhat more mineralized than they are to the west. There's also the disturbance, I guess, in the north part of the site from the former peat plant and railways that led into the site. So we heard from the community and others during walking tours, during the workshops. The most important things that we heard regarding hydrology and water quality was protection of the Burns Bog Ecological Conservancy area. And that can be expressed as maintaining the quantity and quality of water that moves from the site to the west. If there's contain impacts from construction on the site, so the construction development would involve placement of fill, so there must be controls in place to contain the drainage. The wetland is important, so avoid development of the wetland. We also heard about Cougar Creek. Some of the concerns were just litter and from more people in the area. There's also fisheries values and opportunities for enhancing the channel of the creek. There's also flooding issues associated with Cougar Creek. Those were the main concerns that I heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
I'll turn this to Michael Richardson, who will speak on transportation.
Thank you.
Your Worship, members of council, I'm going to provide a brief overview of the key transportation issues of concern and cover what I heard from the residents from the workshops. We were retained to review the transportation issues for the MK Delta site and studied the local area traffic conditions in 2010 and 2011. The objectives of the traffic study are to review the existing traffic and transportation issues and to evaluate the capacity and performance of the surrounding road network. I'd like to say that at this stage we were reviewing the existing conditions and not the future traffic loading. This is because how the local transportation network is affected by a particular development is dependent on the actual mix of the development. The traffic study starts with obtaining traffic counts at the main intersections around the site. Our findings? Currently, over 50,000 vehicles pass through the intersection of Highway 91 at 64th and Highway 91 at 72nd. In fact, Highway 91 at 72nd Avenue intersection is considered to be operating at a level of service D in a scale of A to F. There are also two intersections operating at or above capacity, 72nd at Westview Drive and 64th and the southbound ramp terminal. In particular, the left-hand turn at this ramp is a level of service E. The location of the site is important to the transportation issues. As you can see on the monitors, the site is surrounded by the following: the British Northern Santa Fe Railway tracks to the east and Westview Drive, Highway 91 to the west, 72nd Avenue to the north, and 64th Avenue to the south. The difference in elevation between the site and Westview Drive already eliminates the possibility of any vehicular connection to Westview Drive. Highway 91 is listed as a controlled access highway by the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. Its role, therefore, is to provide mobility rather than to access adjacent properties, and therefore will be no access permitted from Highway 91. This leaves two options. access from 64th Avenue, which is a collector road, or access from 72nd Avenue, which is also a collector road. 72nd Avenue, however, carries a significant amount of traffic during the morning and afternoon peak hours to and from Highway 91. The existing traffic volumes on 72nd would actually warrant 4 lanes. However, there are no current plans that we are aware of to upgrade it to a 4-lane road due to the significant construction and property acquisition costs. Traffic on Highway 91. The traffic volumes on 91 are significant. The above photo is Highway 91, and 72nd is shown to the right of the photo. There are 4 main connection points to the highway in the vicinity of the project. Highway 10 to the south, 64th Avenue at the southern end of the project, and 72nd Avenue at the northern end of the project, and Nordale Way to the further north. All of these connection points significantly contribute to the traffic on Highway 91, with the result being the traffic queues as far south as 64th as vehicles from these connections merge onto the highway. Generally, commuters are in this line until the vehicles reach Alex Fraser Bridge. This queue on Highway 91 has a residual effect both on 64th and 72nd Avenue, causing lineups on both of these roads, but especially on 72nd. The backup on 72nd promotes increased traffic movement on the surrounding residential streets as commuters look for an alternate route to avoid 72nd. These are the main points that I heard at the workshops regarding the local transportation networks. Residents want to address and improve the overall transportation conditions in the area. They are looking for improvements to the traffic issues on 72nd to reduce the lines of traffic, particularly at the intersection of 72nd and Highway 91, and to solve the conditions at the intersection of 72nd and Westview Drive. There is a community desire for a full interchange at 72nd and Highway 91 to provide uninterrupted left-hand turns from the highway onto 72nd for returning traffic in the evening. They also said, do not increase traffic on Westview Drive. They also said, improve the conditions of the southbound ramp to 64th Avenue. The goal will be to have all of the studied intersections operate at an acceptable level of service during both the morning and afternoon peak hours. What we heard regarding the development of the site. These are the main comments heard at the workshops on what to consider when the site is built out. Provide an access on 72nd to the site that does not impede the flow of traffic on 72nd. Use the existing underpass or bridge, which goes over the railway, for access or egress, or create a new underpass to direct traffic onto 72nd. Make the gateway to the project from 72nd in the northeast corner, away from Highway 191 and the current traffic congestion. Residents suggested there should also be an access from 64th Avenue to the site, so there is more than one route for emergency service vehicles and any trucks that might access the site. There was a desire to locate this access close to the highway to preserve the wetland that John spoke about, as well as building the road where the soils are more stable. They also asked, choose a land use as a mixed development that reduces the need for private auto use and reduces traffic in the area. And finally, integrate the transit with the development. There was a desire for enhanced bus service. Provide connections to 22nd Street SkyTrain in New Westminster. Provide a community shuttle to Scott Road. The residents did recognize that MK Delta Lands Group is committing to working with the Ministry of Transportation and through this project being a catalyst to improve the overall transportation issues in the area. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Tracy Cassavant from Lighthouse Sustainability Center.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael, and good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good evening. Welcome.
Sustainability is a core value of MK Delta Lands Group and across our entire team. So we wanted to brief participants on the importance and potential for addressing sustainability at this site. So at the workshops, through the initial presentations, participants were reminded that striving for sustainability would mean more than just green buildings. There are actually goals and actions for sustainability throughout the entire development cycle. So from our current land use planning stage all the way through to how the infrastructure is designed, the site is used, buildings are designed and operated, and how it works when we actually live there. Decisions made at each stage can affect our ability to act on our sustainability intentions in subsequent phases. So it can be helpful through the workshop process sometimes to think a little bit further ahead. For example, to think of some of our goals for buildings, even though at this stage in the process we're nowhere near to designing buildings. To help inspire the breakout groups, we presented participants with some general ideas and examples of sustainable infrastructure and sustainable building, but noted that ultimately it was their ideas that we were seeking. We also reminded participants that the feasibility analysis of these ideas would occur much later in the process. That feasibility can be affected by many factors, such as economics, ecological considerations, or regulations. So if a great idea from this process doesn't make it through later stages, it's important to keep in mind that there could be many reasons for this. Regarding sustainable infrastructure, some of the examples provided included stormwater management systems designed to mimic nature, as well as renewable and alternative energy systems, such as combining geoexchange inside structural piling, or using heat recovered from sewer systems to heat the buildings, such as we see now at Olympic Village. Regarding sustainable buildings, we talked about the future of buildings with projections of energy consumption of 1/4 to 1/10 of where we are now, and even positive energy buildings, or the use of passive designs that require almost no energy input, maintain a constant temperature, and are quiet and healthy. Examples included the mixed-use BRE Innovation Park in the UK, which is a showcase small neighborhood and combined living laboratory where each building demonstrates a different high level of performance and technologies, as well as a multi-unit residential building that is also passive house, which is different because most people think that can only be applied to a single-family home. Next slide. What we heard with respect to sustainability was, of course, what we've heard so far: support for ecological protection, support for innovative and very naturalized stormwater management systems, development that supports transit, as well. There also seemed to be a lot of general support for innovation and showcase technologies at the site. There was a recognition that the size of the site positions it really well to be a showcase for sustainability leadership. Interestingly, affordability was also raised as a goal under the sustainability discussion, not instead of, but as part of achieving our sustainability. Participants recognized this was tied to flexibility of our buildings, so buildings that can be made suitable for families now and for seniors in the future, providing more choice around purpose-built product. And that conversation extended to maybe even we needed completely new building types that could be showcased at this site. I think that's probably a good segue now for my team member, Paul Skite, who is going to summarize and weave our overall feedback together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Mayor Jackson and members of council, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here tonight.
Welcome. Yes.
I'd like to just take a few minutes and give you an overview of the themes that we heard with respect to the development proposals. Probably the most common theme of the workshops and the feedback we had from the site tours was to focus development on the disturbed areas in the north, developing where it makes most sense on the least sensitive areas, namely the old peat plant that is there today, and people also talked about cleaning it up. But parallel with that was to avoid and protect areas that are more biodiverse in the southern portion of the MK Delta property, namely the old forest areas that Ian has talked about, and also the wetlands, which function as stormwater management. The key elements that the public said that we should include in a development are as follows: create what they called a complete community, with a sense of place and place of heart, and which is walkable rather than having to rely on the car. Providing a sustainable community, as Tracy's talked about, where people have the opportunity to work, live, and possibly obviously play in the in the opportunities for open space. They also talked about a scaled mixed use centered around the reduced use of cars and good access to public transit, namely perhaps even a hub of transit, which could connect to other parts of Delta and parts of the region. The second theme was providing appropriate retail and commercial uses. That is, small-scale shops like barbershops, medical offices, food services, and restaurants. Also looking at things like offices and business opportunities on the second floor of these commercial buildings. Some people talked about a gateway tourism office at the location, since a number of U.S. residents use Highway 91 entering into the Lower Mainland. They talked about expanding community services for North Delta, something like a recreation and leisure center with a library, arts, and activities for families and seniors. They even talked about possibly relocating Heath Elementary School to the site as a way of providing expanded opportunities for education. They talked about public interpretation and educational programs about the Ecological Conservancy area, something that the public in the region is very interested in. Providing a greater variety of housing opportunities, as Tracy has talked about. Accessibility, affordability, and flexibility in design were some of the key elements that would accommodate both singles, young families, seniors, and first-time buyers. The fifth theme was one of creating parks and open space amenities, providing more local parks with sports fields, playgrounds, and informal areas for use. Increasing walking and cycling trails to connect to the regional greenways with benches and picnic tables, providing a safe crossing for the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Rail, perhaps at the Westview Park area, something like a pedestrian overpass. And they also talked about the benefits of community gardens, urban agriculture, and even a possible observation tower for the bog. But there was one additional theme which we heard time and time again from the community input, that is to protect the Burns Bog Ecological Conservancy area. And some of the interesting and innovative thinking from the public said, why don't you swap land of the disturbed areas, namely the peat plant and the surrounding areas, for more sensitive areas of MK Delta on the south, which are ecologically more sensitive, but which could provide more community benefits. The second element was one of adding MK Delta's 200-acre parcel west of Highway 91 to the Burns Bog Ecological Conservancy as a buffer to maintain the integrity of the bog. And the third element tied to protecting the bog was implementing appropriate environmental management measures to isolate impacts of the development. One of the key things to take note of in terms of these suggestions is any land swap, of course, would require changes to the Conservation Covenant and also the support of all the agencies that were involved in making the bog possible. That's the summary. I'd like to now turn it back to Odette, who's going to talk a little bit about where we go from here.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Yes, please.
Thank you. And so our team has reported this evening on the consultation that's been undertaken, as well as to Delta staff on the community process. And we've submitted a summary report. And our next step now is to host a public open house, which will be held on Thursday, October 18th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Delta Secondary School Gym. And what we heard at the community workshops will be represented and will be represented on what we show on October 18th. This is our commitment. Our approach has been to be open and transparent, and this will continue. And we welcome input, and we'll keep sharing what we hear and reflecting it in all of our development concept planning. So the open house will be advertised, of course, in the local newspapers, and also we will deliver letters and invitations to the immediate neighbors 2 weeks prior to the open house. And I've also brought some little ads and flyers for announcing that as well tonight. Okay. And so our next steps, we will continue to be transparent and accessible in this consultation process and in planning for the future development of the site. So before the end of the year, our aim is to choose a preferred concept plan and to submit a complete development application package to the Corporation of Delta with supporting technical reports And so this is the objective that we're working towards so that MK Delta Lands Group can move forward on a proposed plan that may also be considered as part of the North Delta Area Plan Review, which is currently underway and being managed by the Corporation of Delta. And so with this, Your Worship, our team is able to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Very detailed submission, and obviously a tremendous amount of work has already gone into this proposal for MK Delta Lands. I will ask council if they have any, keeping in mind that this is a preliminary, there's lots more things that are going to have to go on, so the detail is probably in the offing. I think Councillor McDonald was first? No, sorry. Councillor Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. A lot of commentary around the eventuality or the potential for a land swap, which if this project were to move forward, it seems to make sense that the disturbed lands to the northeast be part of any potential development on this site. I guess my question is, this being a conservancy area, and as identified during the when we acquired the bulk of Burns Bog at the time, what are the, and of course this conservancy area has real covenants associated with it in this case, what are the complexities, and maybe your question, Your Worship, through you to staff, because there are multiple parties associated with those covenants, what would be the complexities in making a switch like that? Seems complicated.
Mr. Miguel, in terms of the conservation area and the question posed by Councillor Hamilton, please.
Your Worship, for me, obviously we require the approval of all levels of government, so federal government, provincial government, Metro Vancouver, so it would be a complex process, it wouldn't be a simple process. The covenants were put in place to be fairly secure and ironclad in protecting the bog, so I don't think we anticipated that time ever doing a swap, so it would be a long process and I think a complex process, but one that could be tried for sure, but there's no process in the covenants that outlines how we'd get something out of there.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Worship. Well, just to follow up, I mean, any potential future project plan that hinged on that would be part of that critical path, and therefore could affect ultimately how MK Delta Lands chose to move forward with the development proposal. So I guess my question is, without prejudging anything, it's very important we don't do that at this stage, obviously, but is there a process that would take place in the terms of discussions alongside of MK moving forward with any kind of development proposal to see if there's absolutely any flavor by the other parties to entertain this? Again, without prejudicing or prejudging anything, it would help, I suppose, in the process as we go forward.
Sure, Mr. Miguel, we haven't done this before or even contemplated it particularly. Mr. Miguel?
And Your Worship, that's correct. I think I'm hesitating a bit because we haven't done this. There's no process laid out. If it's council's wish, we can absolutely start that process. Again, I don't even know what it looks like, but we'd have to be talking to other levels of government and bring that case forward to them and start the discussion. And there's all kinds of opportunities to do that. We've done that obviously locally, it's easier with Metro Vancouver and the provincial government, but if that's council's wish to have that discussion, then we can start that process.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I mean, I don't know how staff would prefer to proceed. Of course, we just leave that to your good office. But to me, it essentially creates a footing for this project. If we're going to go one way, we have to start those discussions because it's going to push everything forward. If MK decides to go the other way, then fine. But I think some discussions have to start taking place at some level if this were to go forward.
Thank you. I think my understanding would be that, I mean, the application process is very linked to all of these things, whether it's traffic or covenants or the bog or hydrology or whatever the case may be. So that's going to be coming. I don't think we're going to jump ahead of that process. I wouldn't expect so, unless Mr. McGill has some other thoughts.
Your Worship, I think what we can do at our staff level is just we'll put together a memo or something, outline a little bit more of the covenant and provide to council for their information and any detail we can find at staff level. of what a process may or may not look like, but we can provide something back to council on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Your
you.
Worship. That's
Thank you. Other questions by council? Councillor McDonald.
Just to comment on that issue, Your Worship, I don't want to rain in anybody's parade, but a year and a half, 2 years ago, when we were in Ottawa, Councillor Hamilton and I met with the Deputy Minister of Environment, or one of the bureaucrats with them, and presented the option of us adding 1,000 acres to the bog. And it was it's not completed yet. It was an enormous task that we were not asking for any money. We have 1,000 acres. We're going to add it to the covenant. And we're told essentially, oh, that's really hard. We're going to have to open it up. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to do that. And so, as I said, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but the concept of saying to them, this may not be within the possible understanding of some of those bureaucrats, that you want to swap some land. Because they were really initially not prepared to think about, you got 1,000 acres, you want to add it, and you're not asking for money. And I was stunned at the time, but I don't want to see Mr. McGill and company spend a lot of time on this. If they want to do some preliminary discussions with people about what would you do if, fair enough, but it's not an easy task.
Absolutely. And nobody accused Ottawa of ever moving, even as an inchworm, but nonetheless, we're stuck with what we have, aren't we? Other questions? Any other questions? A lot of material here to digest, of course, and obviously a lot of things that you have heard from the community. And I'll be certainly interested in reading this. It's quite a volume, and obviously it's not a final document by any means. So I think we're just looking at this for information and allowing the process to flow forward. Councillor Kanakis, please.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson. Through you, I guess, to the MK Delta Lands team. Going back to the hydrology, I think one of the questions I'm asked the most about is, will this project, the bottom line kind of on hydrology, and impact the hydrology of the bog? And I mean, I think we've heard it said that there is a flow through of runoff, but could we have just maybe a further confirmation around hydrology and impact on the bog? We learned through hydrology studies done for the South Fraser Perimeter Road going back to 2006 and tracking that hydrology work, that the bog was actually draining away, draining out, and losing water. So a number of steps were taken to mitigate that drainage. And I'm just wondering if that would be impacted, or if the thinking is connecting the thinking around hydrology for this site with the hydrology work that's already been done on the bog.
Mayor Jackson,
Yes.
If it would be appropriate for John Balfour to address Councillor Kanakis's question, we'll ask him to come to the mic.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have been studying what's been going on with the South Fraser Perimeter Road for a number of years. One thing that is somewhat different in the north area is that some of the drainage features are tidally influenced. So this is by the flap gates and at the pump stations on the Fraser. So there is a tidal influence that can create a, if you will, back and forth movement of water. That isn't the case here at 10770. We don't have an issue of water levels being influenced strongly by tidal effects in the Fraser River. We have been giving great thought to how to both contain the drainage on the site and maintain the flow of water and the quality of water to the west. I didn't mention it in my presentation, but we have been monitoring out in the eastern part of the bog since 2006, studying water levels. We've measured the background water quality and really been giving this some serious thought for a number of years.
Well, thank you for that, because I think, as we all appreciate, the heart of the bog is all about water. It only can stay a bog if there's the water. So I think that's why residents are looking for the clear understanding of what the implications for water runoff, water retention are for the site. Thank you. That's it for me, Mayor Jackson.
Thank you, thank you. Other questions of the delegation? I think, and I'm sure you've probably already accessed the scientific panel from the Metro Vancouver Parks Committee relative to some of the hydrology and the water table and the height, and there's so much work being done there. I just want to make sure that that's all available to you as well, if you need the base data, if you would.
Just if I may, Mayor Jackson, I'm interested in knowing which neighborhoods this is, the information flyers being circulated in. I know that the neighborhoods right nearby the location would be interested. However, this is an issue that I think is important for all of North Delta. I know in my neighborhood, Sunshine Woods and Sunshine Hills and beyond. So just wondering, you might have said this is going in the newspaper as well as being delivered?
Yes, please.
Through your worship, it is going to be advertised for 3 consecutive papers 2 weeks in advance. The North Delta, the Leader, the Optimist. Then there's also, we'd defined a mail-out area for direct delivery. We had targeted approximately 1,000 residences, but we'll work with your staff as well to identify that best capture area for direct mail. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Payton, please.
Thank you, Worship. One of the gentlemen spoke on transportation issues and traffic issues and went into quite a bit of detail, including photographs of what we all know and understand on Delta Council with 72nd Avenue at Highway 91. The fact that there is an intersection there and the traffic lines up, it seemed to be quite a concern for you with the traffic situation approaching the Alex Fraser Bridge at 72nd Avenue. Then if you go up 72nd Avenue, you also pointed out, excuse me, traffic issues with Westview Drive as well as 64th Avenue. Having said that, and in hearing your comments, I mean, we would all certainly agree with you. Have you made any consultation with the Provincial Ministry of Highways regarding, can we do something about it? We know it's an issue. I think you understand it's an issue for your possible future project. How can you mitigate the traffic concerns at 72nd Avenue and Highway 91?
I'll ask Michael Richardson to address that comment.
Thank you very
Councillor
much.
Payton.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, we have looked at the difficulties in this area, and we have consulted with the Ministry of Transportation and Highways, and we have discussed with them some proposals to create a full freedom movement interchange at Highway 91 and 72nd, and they have been supportive in principle of our concepts that have come from the workshops, comments from the workshops. The idea there would be to free the flow of the traffic on the right-hand turn movement as you're going west on 72nd onto 91 by having longer lanes, longer merge lengths. And in the evening coming home, the 2 left-hand southbound lanes, which turn onto 72nd, removing the traffic lights, would keep the free flow of the traffic and enhance and reduce the level of service from a D to potentially around a B. So yes, we have studied that. Does that answer your question, Councillor Payne?
That's your question. Thank you. Thank you. The biggest problem with 72nd and 64th and Nordell Way and 84th and 80th and 96th and 90th, all our feeder routes through North Delta, the biggest problem with the entire system is that we are taking the bulk of the growth in Surrey, probably even east of King George Highway. Surrey's huge growth is impacting North Delta to the degree that we can't hardly move, let alone be allowed to encourage others to move to our community. And you hesitate to say that they should be, doing some other things to draw their people to a different area, because I guess we use their roads from time to time too. But of course, I live in North Delta and I see it every day, and it's just streaming through like a floodgate every morning and every night. And they go through every little single road the commuter traffic does to get to that Alex Fraser Bridge. And that's the biggest problem. It isn't North Delta. We haven't even grown in, 25 years. We have been built out for that period of time. And it's really discouraging when I see that Surrey will continue to grow at a massive rate, and Delta will be the meat in the sandwich, so to speak. So it's very difficult to handle that traffic, and particularly, we're the only ones that seem to really care, aren't we?
Yes, I do agree that Surrey is a cause of your large traffic issues.
Thank you. Other questions? Well, certainly, I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for updating council and our staff and the community on some of the things that you're looking at, that you're contemplating, some of the options that you've heard from people, and trying to encompass all the ideas that you're hearing is a mammoth undertaking. And certainly, we thank you very much for being here tonight, and all of your staff. Very, very well researched. Thank you very much all for being here and sharing all of this information with us. And certainly we'll look forward to the upcoming meetings that are going to be taking place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move receipt of the delegation.
Thank you. Any discussion on receipt? Questions called? All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Thank you. It's a lot of work, eh?